You're going to love these Karen stories today, especially our title story. Here's the first one. Karen slapped and pushed me because I was ignoring her and not helping. Posted by Praveen Shankar 007. I am an 18-year-old male, born completely deaf and mute. Also, I am partially blind in my left eye. I live with my sister, 28-year-old female, who had been taking care of me since our parents died. Recently, she got married and went on her honeymoon, so I'm on my own for a few weeks. This happened yesterday. Usually, whenever I go out, I'm accompanied by my sister due to my disability. But now, since she is on her honeymoon, I had to go out alone. There was a new supermarket opened in our area, and I needed some items, so I decided to go there and grab them. Nah, my bad for wearing a red-colored shirt almost similar to the employees working there. But if you look closely, you could see that it was not the uniform. I was at the electronics section looking for some old batteries when I see an old man struggling to get some DVDs at the top shelf. Since I'm tall, well, I helped him. He thanked me, I can do lip reading, and then he went on his way. Then I began looking for the batteries. That's when I felt someone grab my left wrist. I turned around and a woman in her late 40s slapped me. She was speaking something, but I couldn't follow her lips as she spoke too fast. However, I was able to catch some words like you, ignore, job, and so on. So, I signed to her that I am deaf. Apparently, this was a wrong move because she became more irate towards the signs. Again, she was yelling something, but I couldn't catch anything. So, I took my notebook and started writing that I am deaf and mute. Before I could finish, she grabbed my notebook and pen and threw them away. Then she slapped me again and pushed me to the ground. Luckily, by this time, a store employee came to see what the commotion was about. He saw me on the ground and helped me up, and then he asked me what happened. Before I can sign to him, Karen starts to yell at the employee. I don't know what she said as she was not facing me. After she finished, I signed to the employee that I cannot hear or speak. Fortunately, he understood and explained this to the lady. But she is still not convinced. She tries to assault me again, but I moved away. Then I wrote and showed the employee to call the cops on her. The employee nodded and called the cops. Karen tried to run away, but the security caught her. The police arrived in about 10 minutes. They first talked to the employee who explained the situation about how Karen assaulted me because she mistook me for a store employee. One police officer comes and speaks to me. I understood that he wanted my version of events, so I wrote everything down and showed it to the officer. Then they went to check the CCTV footage, and they came back and asked me if I wanted to press charges. I gladly said yes. Karen was then placed in handcuffs and given a free ride at the back of a police cruiser. The manager then explained to me that Karen thought I worked there and she became angry that I ignored her. She had been standing on my left side, so obviously I couldn't see her. The store manager then offered me a 50% discount on the products. I texted my sister about the events that happened and she was livid. Oh, did I mention that my sister is a lawyer? She told me that she herself will be handling the case and would see to it that Karen would get the maximum time. Court date is in around 40 days. I will update about it after court. Edit. I noticed many were asking about masks. She was indeed wearing one, but during that encounter she had it on under her chin and not covering the nose or mouth. Also, lawyers in India can represent their family in court as long as they are not directly involved in it and the judge is not a relative to the lawyer. Karen, the building manager, probably regrets her wording. Posted by quite the opposite _yes. I live in a housing cooperative. I have no idea if there is something equivalent in other countries, but I live in Norway. It's essentially where you own your own apartment, but the cooperative owns the buildings and the land. If you're going to make changes to the building, you'll have to apply for a permit. Otherwise, it's generally do as you please, as long as you don't bother your neighbors. Anyways, I put up a small greenhouse on my private patio, as many others had done, but not this exact type. This was an aluminum construction, not a frame with a loose plastic cover kind. The building manager, who is best described as a triple Karen, threw a fit. She actually watched me spend 3 days assembling the greenhouse, and then the next day she called me and threw a fit. Not because I put up a greenhouse, but because I had used screws to fasten it to the patio for stability. Apparently, I was not allowed to use screws on the floorboards, as this was considered changes to the building in her mind. And I had destroyed the floorboards. Never mind, the whole patio was built with, wait for it, screws through the floorboards. Screws in the wall were okay, she told me in response to me asking about why she'd put up shelves on her patio herself, but not the floorboards. Apparently, the difference was monumental, and everyone should just know this intuitively. Nowhere, literally nowhere, does it say fastening things to the floorboards or putting screws in the floorboards is not allowed. Not in my house rules, not in my contract, or in the National Housing Cooperatives law. But she was furious that I had done this. I took a deep breath. Oh, and as I am quite creative, I immediately thought of a workaround. I'll just put it on wheels then. I made a big number of saying that fastening was essential because otherwise the greenhouse would not be stable enough to withstand wind. She said that she understood this, but I had now ruined the co-op's property, and this was a really serious matter. She told me to send an application for a permit to see if she could find a way to get approval from the board. But she could not guarantee I could keep it, she said, with the fakest of sympathies. So I sent the application with photos saying what I had done, and that I didn't think I had to apply to do it, as I never considered putting in a prefabricated greenhouse would be seen as changes to the building. My application was rejected, as I had anticipated. But she worded the rejection exactly as I had hoped she would. I was not allowed to put in a fastened greenhouse, and she probably thought she'd been clever when she included that I was not allowed to put the greenhouse on my front lawn either. I had worked the "it needs to be fastened to the stable" angle hard because I hoped that she, as the Karen she is, would fall for that reverse psychology. So I proceeded to put the greenhouse on wheels. I made a frame from 2x4s and I put 8 small furniture wheels under the frame. I then lifted and screwed the greenhouse onto the frame. I put some boards on the sides just above the ground to stop the draft. Boom, mobile greenhouse. I can slide it all over the patio. I put some hooks in the walls and then I used transport straps to secure the whole thing to the wall for stability. The walls were okay to put screws in, remember? So, in effect, my greenhouse is now in the exact same location, 4 inches taller, and with ugly blue ribbons tying it to the wall. And the patio now has 22 open screw holes, ready to be filled with rainwater in the fall. But, oh well, as she's repeatedly told me, it's not my patio. Then I sent an orientation email to the building manager with photos and videos of the sliding greenhouse with the rest of the board members on copy, where I explained in detail what I had done and how every step was in compliance with the rejection email that I'd received, which I of course included. I said that the greenhouse was now to be considered a piece of mobile patio furniture, just like my sofa and my chairs were, and that I now considered this subject to be a closed matter. I've not heard a single word from any of them. It's been over a week. I think I got her. I can't imagine she'll find a loophole that lets her legally dictate what patio furniture is allowed and not allowed in the co-op, since the patios are stated to be for every apartment owner's private usage. So when Christmas comes, I'm planning to decorate the greenhouse with lights, make it pretty, because every time Karen steps out of her front door, she has to face my patio where she is looking straight at my greenhouse. The least I can do is make it pretty for her, right? More info and updates. I'm a 39-year-old female, and I've lived here 10 years without a single complaint. Karen is the new building manager, and being the Karen that she is, which means highly narcissistic female, she's using my greenhouse as a way to establish her newfound authority. To make an example, I didn't get her permission, so the greenhouse has got to go. It's not about the holes, it was just the only argument that she could use to get me to take it down, especially since I'd argued hard that it needed to be fastened for stability. And I'm going to take care of the holes. I'll either fix the holes or change the few damaged floorboards, and I told her this on the phone. The damage is no big deal either way. The greenhouse is my therapy. I suffer from PTSD, so keeping my therapy is kind of a big deal to me. I'm not trying to get sympathy, just saying why I decided to fight her on this. And the update. I don't know if Karen learned about her Reddit infamy and felt stupid, but today I got a new email from her. She's now letting me keep the greenhouse because it's now a mobile unit. No mention of the holes in the floor, but she was careful to remind me that any loose object that damages the co-op's property, if the wind gets a hold of it, is my financial responsibility. Well, I'm really not too worried about that. The straps are designed to hold 1.4 tons each, and I've got 3 of them. Plus, there's this amazing little thing called insurance. Now that I've got it in writing that my greenhouse is approved by the board, I'm pretty sure that I'm covered on the off chance that the 6-ounce plastic windows manage to break free from the frames and straps and wreak havoc on the neighborhood. Entitled Mom thinks adults only doesn't apply to her kid at a resort pool, gets removed by staff, posted by Grimace for Eyes. My husband and I are currently vacationing at a 5-star hotel. There are 2 separate pools, one for kids and families, and then the Serenity and Quiet one for adults, where 21 and older is enforced. Both pools are very clearly marked as such by large signs placed around the perimeters of each. We've been here for a few days, and it has been literal paradise. We have not run into many families and kids, and those that we did see were exceptionally well behaved and attended to by their parents. Until today. We went to the adult pool and got set up on the 2 chairs. The pool was in front of us and the hot tub was behind us. It was a tad chilly, so we ventured over to the hot tub where we saw a kid, about 7, playing with a crap ton of Star Wars toys on the steps. Call me a Karen, I don't care, but this set me off. We came to this resort specifically because of the 2 very separate pools with enforced rules. I want to relax. I don't feel like hearing screaming kids on vacation. So I went over to the attendant stand and I asked if the hot tub was for families, and if so, was there an adults only hot tub that we might be directed to? I knew the answer, I just didn't want to come across as too aggressive. I was told that the hot tub was, indeed, for adults only. So I proceeded to tell both pool attendants that there was a child in the hot tub and I didn't know if his parent was nearby. You guys, both pool attendants were basically like, heck no, and walked very fast over to the hot tub and told a woman who was apparently the mother, an entitled mother or Karen, of the child that it was adults only and they had to leave. The kid was told to get out. Crying and screaming ensued, and he and the mom then just sat on the chairs. But wait, there's more. After about 5 to 10 minutes, they were still sitting on the chairs in the adult area, and again, the attendant came over and informed them that the area was adults only, and they're not even allowed to sit there, even if they're not actively using the hot tub. Karen was ticked, angrily packed up their stuff, and both were ushered out of the adults area. I suspect they were there because the kids' pool area was super busy and Karen didn't want to deal with the other kids and or couldn't score a chair. We tipped the attendants generously on our way out and are already planning our next vacation here. I wish more businesses would realize that not everyone wants to commingle with families and kids. Now the best part is that this particular hotel has kids programming all day, a kids club, and the kids family and pool is actually much bigger and nicer than the adults pool. It also has kids' water attractions like the ones you would see at a splash pad, a huge bucket that spills water, water guns, fountains, and bubblers, and so on. Why would you not be there? Oh, I know, because the mother is an entitled, selfish butt who didn't care about her kids' enjoyment or that of the adults around her. And it happened again today. We were at the adult pool again this morning, and a mother pushing a stroller with another kid in tow tried to sneak in the side entrance of the adult pool area. Not so fast. The same attendant from above stopped them and escorted them out so fast their heads must have been spinning. The kids' pool is absolute madness right now, with it being Mother's Day and there aren't many chairs left, so I'm guessing she thought the rules don't apply to her. This amazing attendant will be getting another generous tip today. An update to address a few common questions and comments. The resort was the Ritz-Carlton in Key Biscayne, Florida. Highly recommended. We will definitely be returning. Now what if the child is neurodivergent or has sensory issues? I honestly don't care. If the kid's overstimulated, he can be taken back to the hotel room for some quiet time, or literally anywhere else on the resort that's open and available to him. I also have sensory issues due to cancer treatment, and I'm not about to sit there and deal with someone else's poor planning. Not my problem while I'm on vacation, especially while there are multiple outlets and accommodations for children and literally only one for adults. Karen versus Baby. Baby wins. Posted by Jinx Mama. This happened when our oldest, now in her 20s, was a baby. I was laid off from my job 2 days before I gave birth to our first child. Believe me when I tell you, it was financially rough, but the 5 months that I had home with her were pretty awesome. I breastfed both of our children, and this is not a pro or a con breastfeeding post, so don't come for me, and I felt that, as long as I was covered, I could feed my child anywhere I wanted to. I breastfed in malls, restaurants, church, doctors' offices, you name it. And yes, this is not the only Karen story I have about breastfeeding, but it is one of the funniest. So picture it. It's a beautiful fall afternoon, and my daughter and I have headed to the park to go for a walk. But just as we arrive, my daughter decided that she was a little peckish. I pulled her out of her car seat, climbed into the passenger seat, rolled down the windows, and started feeding my kid. This wasn't the first time I had found myself in the car feeding my kid, so I had a stack of magazines that I would pull out to thumb through while my kid ate. I should mention that my kid was a sipper, so breastfeeding took a minute. Now, I had parked my van so that the front was facing a copse of trees. To see in my window, you had to walk over to the van. I was trying to be respectful and park it in the shade. Okay, mostly the shade part. We had been sitting there for a while before I hear ahem outside my window. I look up and there is this stern woman glaring at us. The woman, let's just call her Karen, proceeds to tell me that I am essaying my child by breastfeeding her. Say what now? I was completely stunned, and I was trying to just come up with a response when my daughter pulls herself off of my breast and blows a raspberry at Karen. Daughter wasn't making a comment, she was just trying to clean out the extra milk in her mouth, but it was funny as heck to see this woman's shocked face when my kid can basically spit at her for insulting her mom. I don't remember exactly what I said after that. It was probably something along the lines of what she said, but I do remember laughing my butt off as Karen walked away. Hey Karen, don't come for my kid. She'll get you every time. Entitled Old Veteran by WildScore 711. This happens in a parking garage. Get ready. I am a veteran and have doctors at 2 different clinics. One is a regular clinic and the other is a clinic and hospital. The big one has a parking garage and everything is right turns and diagonal parking. When you enter, if you want to park on the first level, which is mostly reserved for dialysis, handicapped, and other special needs patients, when you enter the garage, you turn right or you go up the ramp to the next level and follow it around to the right until either you find a parking spot, if that's the level you need, or you go up to the next level and so on. The levels are 1, 1A, 2, 2A, and so on. There are cut-throughs in the middle of each level, so people who are leaving don't have to go all the way around. All they have to do is turn right at the cut-through and take the ramp down. So I was there last week, and I needed to go up to the 3rd level. I was driving around when this entitled old guy in a big car decided that he didn't want to drive all the way around, and he turned left at the cut-through on the 2nd level. Then he turned left again, almost hit me and blew his horn at me even though I was going the correct direction. He refused to back up, turn around, and go in the correct direction, so I and the truck behind me had to back up until he maneuvered his car into a parking spot. When I drove back by him, he started yelling at me, but I kept driving. The driver of the truck behind me was a big guy, and he got out of his truck and had a few words with the entitled old guy. I looked in my rearview mirror and saw him pointing in the direction that I was going. I found myself wishing that, because the driver in the back of me decided to have words with him, the guy would be late for his appointment and would have to wait a long time before he was seen. Of course, since I still had to go up 2 more levels, find a place to park, and walk all the way down a hallway to the clinic that I needed to go to, I was late for my appointment. The nurse and the doctor weren't at all surprised when I told them why I was late, so I guess that's something that happens a lot. Karen puts a disabled man in my ER. I press charges. Click the video on your screen so you find out what happens, and I'll see you there.